All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 30th day of June 2020. Oh, what is with my hair? Anyway, there we go. Anyhow, I just did the Esoteric Influences. That is currently uploading as we speak to YouTube. It'll sit there in the queue before I publish, well, because it'll finish before I'm done here. So anyhow, look for that to come up on the blog or over on YouTube. I post both of these over on the side panel. I stopped doing that for a while, and I think it was just maybe something that was a glitch when WordPress switched over to Gutenberg, maybe. I don't know. But I wasn't able to replace it. I was having to take out the widget and put a new one in. It was just a pain. So I just thought, oh, the heck with it. Well, whatever it was is no longer happening. So I can again put them over there. And I just would rather do that than take up blog post space in the main body of things. So anyway, because you have to scroll down to find things. It's just silly. So anyway, let's see. I wanted to say a couple of things about the esoteric influences. We have a 3 energy for today, mind, body, spirit alignment, but we've got some outliers. So and that's why I wanted to mention it. Mercury's still in retrograde, so communications could be iffy today or could get mixed up. Misunderstandings can occur. However, we also are dealing with Mars energy today, with it being Tuesday. Tuesday's governed by Mars, and so it's always a passionate day with the moon in Scorpio. You've got a lot of interesting energy that could be volatile. A lot of jealousy, a lot of envy, a lot of suspiciousness. So yeah, so just kind of be aware that, especially with Mercury in retrograde, things could go sideways communication wise, and you don't want that. So be very careful today. Anyway, let's go ahead and shuffle a little bit here. If this is your first time here, welcome. I appreciate you stopping by. And I'd love you to click subscribe and do check out the blog. It's over there at imsteppingaside.com. There's a lot of links below this video. You can check those out. You can find me all kinds of places. And there's also up at the top of those links, I put the recipe for hand sanitizer using aloe. And I forget, and I think it's alcohol, but anyway, there's that, and then there's also the bleach solution amounts. How you make a bleach solution with how much water and how much bleach to use. If you need to, if your stores are running out of any disinfectant, if you happen to go there and they just haven't replaced them yet, maybe the truck hasn't arrived and there was a run on them or something. You can make your own bleach solution, and so you'll find the ratios underneath in that section as well. So if you want to look at that, you can. But again, the link to the blog is there. So that's called Stepping Aside over at imsteppingaside.com. So check that out too. I'd love you to do that. Today I've finally decided what I'm going to do over on Medium. I do write a couple of times a week on Medium. One, I cross-post the esoteric influences, and the other, I just write something. And so I think what I'm going to start doing, I'm going to do a Tuesday tarot reading to post there. So I have it ready to go. I'm going to use the Heindel Tarot, and it's just going to be a 3-card reading. But it's very cool. I ended up pulling the High Priestess, the Star, and the Fool. And I mean, the Heindel deck is just gorgeous. So if you haven't seen it, you really should. It's just gorgeous. And it's so esoteric. It's just got everything. It's so very cool. And so I'm excited to do that one today over on Medium. So check that out when it comes later on today. I have some other things I've got to do. I've got to do some watering and stuff like that. So although I got a lot of stuff done yesterday, I have some weeding to do too. So hopefully I'll get the post done before I have to start all of that. So anyway, also look for the correspondences and astrological information for today to go up on the blog. The blog's a witch blog. It's also an herbalism blog, metaphysical blog, and all of that. But the esoteric, or rather the correspondences and astrological information, they're done for noon every day. And, well, most days. I don't do them every day. But anyway, you've got the current outlook up top. you know, and then that's the current astrological chart for noon. And then down below, though, are the current magical correspondences for that particular day. And so it's just a way of, if you don't want to open the grimoire, if you're working magic and you want to know what color or what stone or what herb or what god or goddess or the deity involved or whatever, you can go there and you can just look at that and grab something. It has numerology. It has the runes for the day, the tarot cards for the day. It just has everything on it, really. I took it from Witch Notes. It's not my most recent book. The most recent one is Shifting Perceptions, but this one came out before that, right before that. And what it is just like remember back in the 90s when we had those, instead of, we had these cheap booklets for like Word or Word Perfect or Excel or what have you, and then what they did is they contained the codes, and so the Alt-4, and all of the macro codes and all of that, and then you didn't have to look them up in a book. You just go to this little booklet and there it was. Well, that's what I did with my grimoire. I made it into there's a lot of tables. It's not just all tables, but it's basically correspondences. It's got some herb stuff in it. It's got, both herb magic and herbalism, herb type stuff. It's got, so I did it simply because I wanted to have something in PDF form. And then I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, well, heck, I could just publish that. And so I did. Anyway, so it's just, teas, magical workings, and spellcasting reminders is what the subtitle is. So that's Witch Notes, and that's what that all comes from. So anyway, check that out if you want to. That's over on Amazon. Shifting Perceptions, though, is not. That one is, I believe it's on Apple Books, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Scribd, I think, might have it. Tolino has it. I said Amazon, not Amazon. Amazon doesn't have it. Let's see. Yeah, Apple Books, Barnes & Noble would be the most notable ones that you would know. But Kobo is another one. Rakuten has them, and that's independent booksellers. That's really cool. And they have it. I know they have it. Scribd, if you don't have a Scribd subscription, oh, Lordy, you should get one. That place is cool. I use it for a lot of research, and it's a great place. I love it. I read a lot of stuff on Scribd. In fact, I'd rather have a Scribd account than a Kindle Unlimited account, frankly. Although Kindle Unlimited is good too. But, you're going to do both. I suppose you can, but I just would rather just do the one. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take the first 3 cards. If you haven't been here before, I'm going to take the 13th one each time for randomness sake. 13's my number, so that's just my process, though. In regular readings, I just lay them out. But this one, I just want to be really random about what I'm doing, and I don't want to have any of I don't want my shuffling to influence it, basically. So, because sometimes, you think you've shuffled a deck and you really haven't. You're going to pull the same 3 cards you pulled before, It's one of those things. And so that can happen. And so I'd rather just not have that happen here. So anyhow, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. If that's all we need, then we'll move on to the rune from the Elder Futhark bag. We're going to use the Rowan runes today, my new Rowan set that I did. And then we'll close out with the Geomancy rune, if I can find my Geomancy runes. There they are. So my desk is a mess. Anyway, let's go ahead and take our first 3 cards. We're repairing and refurbishing and restoring our 1939 Ford 9N tractor. And if any of you know tractors, you're all drooling at this point, right? Yeah, you should be. There's nothing like a Ford 9N. And I think, given the VIN number on it, I'm thinking it might be the 519th deal off the floor, out of the manufacturer. So we have one of the first ones, okay? And my husband's going through it, and it's almost done. The engine's all done. He did the engine. We got new tires. We didn't do in the front yet. We got new tires in the back. He's painting everything. It's going back together. It's very cool. He's so excited. Anyway. kind of my husband there, waiting for the rest of his parts to come in. I think he's got one more thing coming. He's got I think it's is it a choke knob and a choke rod? Yeah, he's got that coming. So that should be here in a couple of days. So that's my husband waiting. Waiting for his ship to come in, for the UPS driver to show up, or it'll probably come postal, but yeah, waiting for the mail to come so he can get his choke knob. I tell you, husbands are great, aren't they? Especially mine. But, we've been married for 41 years, so I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't know what to do without him, and he feels the same. So it's one of those, symbiotic relationships at this point, where we kind of resemble each other. I don't have a beard. He does. But there was a time when his hair was as long as mine. And so I remember the day that he cut it. He comes in. He was burned in the field, and I wasn't out there. And he had his ponytail. He'd wear it with rubber bands down it, right? Well, I go out there to give him something to drink, and because he's just burning the little pastures, no big deal. He doesn't need me, right? Well, it was tall enough that the wind got it, and he was afraid that his hair caught on fire. So he's got this look on his face. I'm like, what? The guy that cuts his hair, he cuts out of his house. He's got a shop there at his house. So he tells me, go call him, see if he's still cutting hair, because it was a little bit after the time he normally quits on a Saturday afternoon. And so I called him, and he had just quit. He had just shut down like 10 minutes earlier. I said, Jerry's ready. That's all I said. He says, come on down. I'm like, we'll be there. And so he only lives like 5 minutes from us. And so we drove over to his house, and the first thing he did was take the scissors, hold on to the ponytail, and snip. And he handed me the ponytail. And so we kept it forever. I mean, it was just hilarious. Oh, men and their hair, right? Card 15, the devil. Slave to desire, slave to ego. A slave to one's agenda. That's another thing. The ego takes over, and in fact, that's what I'm actually talking about in Shifting Perception, in case you don't know, if you haven't seen the book. It's not a very long book. Basically what it is a manual for transformation, and I know that sounds really provocative and presumptuous of me to say something like that. But all I'm trying to do there is to say to people, look, we are spirits. Where's the soul? Without the soul infusing into these bodies, we wouldn't exist. The bodies would have no reason to exist. They'd be little golems, that's all they'd be, something made out of dirt or clay or whatever, and infused with some kind of magic that makes them go and do their master's bidding. See, that's all we'd be, which in a way we kind of are, some of us, right? I don't know, especially people that don't want to think for themselves. But the idea about transmuting ego into spirit, you don't get down in the muck of the spirit to do it. You keep your, vibration high, your frequency high, and you give no attention to ego. And the only thing ego can do is dissolve into spirit. Anyway, I talk about what I think about all that, and I also give some affirmations, and I give some visualization techniques, meditations, and things like that to try to get you to get folks to understand that shift needs to take place and awareness, and we need to be seeing life through spirit instead of through the ego. And so I just thought, well, how do you do that? It's easier said than done. Well, actually, it's not. It really is pretty easy to do that. Once you've accepted this, it's a little hard to go backward. Oh, and you will, but, you'll also change course. This is a time for ascension. This is a time where we are truly having to come to terms with the fact that we are not the ego, we're not the body, but that we're the soul inhabiting all of this. And it's high time the soul took command and understood that this is an expression of unity here. Sure, we can argue, we can, discuss, we can do whatever to grow and to change and to progress and all of that. But this is an expression of unity, and it always was supposed to be. We've just forgotten it, and the ego's taken over. And so what I did with that book, I just said, okay, well then how do we shift that perception into spirit? Well, once you start working with it, you're like, oh, right? So anyway, check it out if you want to. There's a link under the video if you want to look at that one. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. But, you see the devil card, and I mean, that's really what you're having to do. You're understanding that you're a slave to desire. And here we're the 7 of Wands, so we're standing our ground against the willfulness of others. Wear a mask. Set the cards down. See if we need any more. So we're going to talk about the devil first, I think. Here's the thing about major arcana cards, they're soul archetype cards. Other than the Fool, where we take the leap into form, we're understanding that, oh boy, life and spirit was a little bit better than what it's going to be here. You don't have the issues of ego here getting in the way of everything. And but then after you take the leap, the rest of the major arcana is all about, the issues that we deal with overall, while we work our way back to the final card, the world or the universe or whatever deck you have. They change the names on them. But basically, we come full circle learning the lessons that we need to learn here, based on the theme that we've chosen. We decide what the theme of our life is going to be. Now, whether it is the theme of all of our expressions, and maybe we here, I've said this before, maybe in another life, another expression, we were an oppressor. And so maybe in this one, we're dealing with issues of victimization or victimology. Okay, so in those two life expressions, we have now figured out what that whole concept looks like. It's not about either or, it's about understanding the whole picture of something. And within that, you're going to have this and you're going to have that. Maybe this and maybe that, right? So maybe you come into life and you experience these things. One time, again, maybe you were the oppressor. The next time you're the victim. Now you understand the whole picture. Your soul does. Of what that looks like. When you separate from the awareness of the creator and let ego drive the whole thing. Right? So that's what we're dealing with the devil card. We see the man and the woman, representative of the polarity within, the masculine and feminine resonance within, and that's not gender, okay? That's energy. What it is, if you look at it like, say, electrically, you've got the feminine side would be a negative charge, the masculine side would be a positive charge, okay? We're talking energy here. We're also talking the effect of someone's aura. So that would be the expression of the energy. So someone who is got a real feminine energy, a real feminine type of aura, you're going to draw people in. It's going to be enveloping. If you have a really strong positive aura or masculine aura, it's going to be a push energy. So drawing in and push. So you can see that what are we going to be a slave to? Now, just as the Magician card shows the as above, so below hand signs, but with that, the Magician is manifesting spirit into form. Okay? That's not what the devil's doing. Because look in his left hand. That's where the fire is. Instead of what the Magician, see now, over here, he's got a scroll, the Torah, pointed toward heaven, pointed toward spirit, pointed toward source energy, pointed toward the creator, bringing in the word of the creator, the word of the higher self, manifesting it into form. That isn't what we're doing here. We're manifesting the will into form. We see she's got a pomegranate tail. He's got a nice little oak leaf tail. And they're both chained around the neck to the pedestal with the devil sitting above. The devil, though, is representative of ego. I know that all right, little witch thing. I don't know too many witches that believe in the devil per se, that there's like a guy who was the devil that's caused all this nonsense. I don't think so. I don't think Lucifer was that person. I don't think we had one. There might have been influences that might not have been there, maybe been more ego-based, but I don't think that there is an actual devil. I think that that's the expression of ego within. I think that it's the expression of, we talk about the law of one. Law of one talks about service to self and service to others. I would suspect that someone who would that would represent or embody the devil, the notion of a devil, would be a service to self kind of individual. One that thinks only of himself, self deals, becomes president and, yeah. So who are we going to be chained to? We're going to be chained to spirit. We're going to be chained to higher self, be chained to who we truly are and manifest that into form. Or are we going to be chained to the ego? Now, it seems that in this case, this guy holds the world in his hand in the Two of Wands. Because we have both wands here, okay? So we've got wands as the fire element. It's the will, but it's the misuse of it at times, okay? Again, the whole picture. Will, positive use, negative use. Okay, we're going to experience it all in this reading. How are we going to manifest the will? Are we going to manifest the will to plan for our future and to walk through that doorway into new experiences? Now, he's prepared for the future because he's kind of looking toward the past. So that suggests to me that there's been some preparation. So he's gone to school, he's plied his trade, he's gotten the skills he needs to have, he knows where he's going to go, and now he's going. He's made some decisions, but he's waiting for the ship to come in, basically. In other words, waiting for the fruits of his will, or of his labor, or of his effort, or of his creative spark, or all of that to come into play. So this is active waiting. You can see the mountains in the distance. So, I mean, there's challenges ahead, certainly. But he's up at the top and he can see clearly. He can see forever. He's at the top of the castle or at the top of some kind of building. You can see there. You can see the cutaway there. You see one staff is affixed to the wall. So there's some structure that's there, some foundation that's not changing. But he reaches forward into the future with the other staff, higher than the other one, holding a globe in one hand, manifesting something, waiting for what he's already done to come through. That's one type of use of the will. Now here, we have another interesting type. We have two things going on here. We have will coming up, an expression of will from a variety of people, 6 other sources. Trying to decide for this guy what it is he wants. And he's like having none of it. The 7 is about balance. I'm going to draw this out for you, assuming I can find a pen. Oh, there it is. The 7 is like this. I've done this before. This is how it looks like the scales. Now, in this position, you've got the guy with who's defending in position 4, don't you? But we don't have a lot of balance here unless you want to think of it, I mean, because they're really kind of at the same level here. I mean, they are and they aren't. So you kind of have a balanced force coming in on him, because they're all doing the same thing. They're at different levels. So there's some chaos there. There's some uncertainty there. Maybe some aren't as committed as others. And the guy on top is just trying to figure out what the heck's going on. But he's not going to let him get any further. Could have something to do with the mask situation in our country right now. I don't know. So we're looking again at two expressions of will. Are we going to constantly be struggling against forces that literally are working counterproductively? Or are we all going to settle down and move confidently into the future? Come into balance. Two is about balance. There's more than just this going on. We have a whole world to think about here, and our future is at stake. So which expression of ego do you want? Do you want the one that can see the bigger picture, that is in fact, in effect, not just in fact, but in effect, transmuted into spirit? There's no ego here other than the motivation to do something, maybe. But that comes from spirit. Spirit infusing ego and say, hey, let's go create. Let's create something positive and sustainable for the future. Or do we remain at loggerheads with one another? Just trying to stay safe and healthy and well and alive. Let's move on to see what the rune has to say. I think it's pretty clear. We're dealing with an expression of ego today that we have to figure out. What are we going to do? Are we going to own the ego, or are we going to let the ego own us? Are we going to say to the ego, look, you're kind of doing stuff that's self-dealing here, and we're not going to get anywhere if you keep doing that. So take command of the reins and transmute ego into spirit. Give ego no place to be other than to go with spirit and align with spirit, and see what effect you have. If everybody did that, can you imagine? Yeah. Isa. Now, from esoteric influences, Nafis was the rune for today. That was the friction within. Well, now we have the 11th rune of the Elder Futhark, also a Norn rune of the static realm, of the present moment, that's telling us to stay present in the truth, stay aligned in source presence, stay aligned in higher self energies and higher self-awareness in the Creator's truth of things, instead of being aligned with the ego. I love it when things dovetail together like that, don't you? Okay, let's do the geomancy rune and then we'll close out. And if you've never seen that, how I do this, geomancy can be done a lot of ways, all right? And it actually encompasses a lot of stuff, but it's earth element divination. Whether you're talking pendulums or whether you're talking, however you want to do the geomancy stuff, you can take a handful of peas or lentils or beans, throw them down, little pebbles, whatever, throw them down, count them. If you got an even number, that's 2 dots. If there's an odd number, that's 1. That's a simple way to do it if you don't have your runes. I chose to do runes because I make runes. So I took some hawthorn, and let's see, we have a 2 for this one. And I coded them. This is earth. You got a dot on one side and 2 dots on the other. It goes in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. So you're going to have a 4-level rune or glyph. And it's going to look like this. Let's see what we have. So for fire, we've got a single dot. For air, we've got 2. For water, we've got 1. And for earth, we've got 2. So let's see what that one is. I think it is a missio, though. Yes. There's basically 8 runes, but you make them into their complement, so you have 16. And so a missio is loss of something, and not necessarily loss of fortune. It could just be the ending of something, maybe even a bad situation is ending. The loss of innocence, the loss of deception. In other words, we've clarified things. So the loss is not just about the loss of material things. Acquisitio is acquiring or gain. That's the opposite or the complement. And so, but today we have a missio, and it looks like this. When you see single and dual dots, the single dot indicates an active principle, active energy, and the dual dot indicates a passive energy. So we're talking, again, projective and receptive energies here, aren't we? I mean, we really are. And realistically, this is what we deal with in the body, okay? And how the body interacts on the planet that we're living on. You know, these are earth energies, and we're in a symbiotic relationship with the earth. We're part of it. It's a living, breathing entity, and we are its children in a sense. At least the bodies are. And then we infuse soul into this process, and we connect soul with the soul of the earth. This is the rune, the geomancy rune. Active principle for fire and water, passive principle for air and earth. Air is not naturally passive. Water is and earth is. Fire and air are typically an active sign. So when they're in their opposite sense, then there's issues there, issues with communication. Today we have, so we could see maybe some issues. That could be the loss. But again, we're in Mercury retrograde. So some of that's to be expected. It's just kind of plan for it. Don't take the bait. It's going to be over soon. So, don't worry about it. It'll all work itself out. My husband got a new iPhone. His was an iPhone 6, and it just kind of stopped functioning. So this was before Mercury retrograde happened, though, just before. And so we went up and got him a new phone. I got my new one. He didn't want one. And so the new one he got looks almost exactly like and functions just like. It has the button on it. Mine doesn't. And anyway, the old one he wanted to keep because he just wanted to be able to use it as his timer to do irrigation and stuff rather than taking the new phone. And so yesterday, I think it was either yesterday or day before, see, we're in Mercury retrograde, it just fails, right? It just, everything, it starts vibrating weird. We don't know what's going on. He's like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. Eventually the whole planned obsolescence things happen and the updates no longer working, and they force you to get a new phone. They really do. And so I've tried to explain this to him, but he takes it all personally. So, but he's 66, so I don't know. I'm not going to fix that, I don't think. But in any event, it's being weird. And I've had issues with the internet one day. I think it was the first day of Mercury retrograde. We had a short time where the internet went down. So I had to buy a new printer. I had no choice. So it's like, okay, my printer died and I had to get a printer. So we're just sort of playing it by ear. Fortunately, the tractor's far enough along that even if the choke thing takes a couple extra days, that's okay. Not a big deal. But it's just one of these weird times, right, where we don't know what we don't know. And I think that the rune is telling us that maybe with the passive influence for air today, maybe that's where the loss is going to take place. The loss of either the loss of miscommunication or the loss of good communication. I don't know. So again, it can go either way. It's not going to define itself any more than that. So just understand that a missio is about the loss of something. Maybe you lost your keys. Yeah, it really, it's no more judgmental. It doesn't take a position, in other words, on what that loss has to do with. The loss could be a good thing. If you're having conflict with somebody, maybe the conflict's over. So there's the loss of the conflict. So you see, divination with geomancy is interesting. I still have, in fact, I've got the stuff ready for it here. I'm going to do a geomancy thing, and I made my stuff really big, so it's going to be easier to see. These are the two different types of charts you can do with them. This is a shield chart, and this is the house chart, and that's a different kind of an experience. And so I've got my notes ready for a lot of stuff here. I just have to do it, so I don't know when I'm going to do it. Maybe this weekend. It'll be another thing in the Foundations and Magic series, though, so look for that. I'll let you know, though. When it's ready and when it goes up, but watch for that if you're interested in looking at that. I also have I'll reference something under on the link below that says building a geomantic shield chart, because that's actually something I've written out on the blog, and I reference it, so I don't have to keep rewriting how to do it, to explain people. That way you can just click on it and go look at it. Well, I'll have that under there as well, just for reference. The problem is it doesn't have the house chart on it. It just has the shield chart. So Maybe I'll do one for the house chart too and include that. But we'll see how this week goes, though. Anyway, I guess that's it. Again, you know, figure out how to navigate today without letting ego. I know it's Tuesday, it's a Mars day. How do you do that when it's a Tuesday and a Mars day? You know, you might have a little better chance on a Friday with Venus's influence, but oh no, today's going to be interesting, especially with Mercury in retrograde. So be certain how you see things. Be certain that you don't allow ego to run amok, and be sure of what you're hearing. Be sure you've done the things you think you've done. You know, be sure. Just check again. You know, that's the thing with retrogrades. You know, things may not be what they seem. So, and we've got 6 planets. Seriously, this is a time of loosening of perceptions. We've got 2 more coming. And I think Ceres and Chiron are coming into retrograde shortly. So I don't know if something else is going to drop out. If it doesn't, we'll have 8 of them in retrograde, helping us to loosen our perceptions right now about how we see things, and that maybe we find a better way forward together when we do that, right? So anyhow, that's it. Check out the blog over there at I'm Stepping Aside. Again, the esoteric influences are going to go up over there. Pretty sure that they have probably already uploaded here, because I've been uploading as I've been talking. So I'll go ahead and I'll post that while I watch this, and then we'll post this, and the correspondences will go up. I'll do that piece on Medium, and I don't know, maybe I'll have time to go pull a weed or 2. So have a great day, you guys, though. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, wear a mask, and blessed be.